play right, cause they can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
Reasoning on why you went Chargers. Dolphins. I went Broncos.
Yeah, so full discourse. I mean, for those who have watched the show, me and you are not the biggest Tua fans in the world, but I still think he'll be solid. And I think a full offseason finally for him is going to be big. And here's the main thing with them. They still have a good defense. That's not going to change. I like Brian Flores a lot. I think he's a really, really good head coach. But their offense added so much talent. I'm really big into Waddle. I think he was the best, or I thought he was the best receiver prospect this year. They add Will Fuller, who was amazing last year. It doesn't get talked about enough because the Texans were not good at all. Myles Gaskin is a good running back. You add that with Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker. They have some weapons on offense. I like that bit about them. The only concern I really have with them is Tua. The whole Tua situation is honestly the only issue I might have. They kind of were pulling him last year at times for Fitzpatrick, and that whole situation is kind of a mystery for me still. But they did end up going I want to say 10-6. Yes, they were 10-6 last year, and they made a lot of new additions. So for that reason, I like them a lot. And their defense is still good. I don't think that's going to change. Xavier Howard and Jones is such a good cornerback duo. So I really like him. Oh, and I didn't even mention Jalen Phillips. If he can stay healthy, which is a huge if because he's been getting concussions at an alarming rate, he really could be the steal of the draft because he is that special of an athlete. So I really do like the Dolphins offseason.
So I can't disagree with any of those points. And yes, you and I have, especially me, I've been not the biggest Tua Tagovailoa fan, going back to him at Alabama. But everything about him this offseason should have you nothing but being positive about what he's doing. And he looks more confident. He looks more athletic. He's throwing the ball better. His arm looks stronger. All of those things I agree with. The reason I went with Denver, and to me, both of these teams are a little bit similar in some ways. Maybe you could argue Tua's a better quarterback or a more gifted quarterback than Teddy. I wouldn't disagree with that, but Denver's got some more weapons. Even though, Waddle and Fuller is real juice with Devontae Parker and Gesicki. Like, that's really big. Right.
Mention him.
Right, and Albert Wilson, you're right. But I think the biggest thing is that Denver has Judy and Sutton and KJ Hamler and Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. So I just think Denver's weapons are a little bit better. I think Denver's offensive line is better. I think Miami's offensive line is still a question mark. There's a lot of young, talented players in that offensive line. But whether they can play up to their talent is a different question mark. So it comes down to the defenses. And I think Denver will just have the better defense this year.
They will.
I think Denver's going to have the best defense in the NFL. It's stacked top to bottom. Vic Fangio is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. I don't think many people would disagree with that. I think their secondary top to bottom is the best in football. They have the best depth at corner, and they have a great safety duo in Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson. Kyle Fuller was a great addition. He's going to be fantastic. Surtain looks outstanding as a draft pick, and they've had other corners who we've mentioned in the past when we talk about them who have played well. Bryce Callahan is a hell of a nickel. And then they have guys at linebacker who've played really a lot better. And then you look at finally having Von Miller and Bradley Chubb together healthy to go with this secondary. I think Denver's defense is going, and especially when you look at Vic Fangio, when he's had this kind of defensive talent, 2011 Niners, 2018 Bears, those type defenses, they take the ball away also at an alarming rate. So I think because of all of that, I think Denver's defense has an opportunity to just take them to the playoffs. And obviously their offense could be really explosive. The issue is they don't have the quarterback to have an explosive offense. But if Teddy can be consistent and doesn't turn the football over like he did last year in Carolina and plays how he played those 5 games in New Orleans when he went 5-0, I think Denver's defense can get them to the playoffs.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't say anything I disagree with on the defensive end, especially the secondary. Like, I don't think people realize how good that secondary is going to be. There is not a single weakness at any of the cornerback positions, outside or slot. And then also the safeties are both really, really good. You mentioned Fangio. He's awesome. And then getting Von Miller back is just such a good get. The one thing I will say though is I don't think their O-line is that good. Garrett Bowles was great last year. Legitimately one of the top 5 tackles. Or left tackles, sorry. You could even say tackles. He had a great year, right? But the rest of the line, I am not convinced with. And yeah, the thing with me that just I cannot get over is just the quarterback situation. Like any other quarterback, I'd say like any other really good starting quarterback or even average quarterback, this team would for sure be playoffs. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, you insert him on this team, that team makes the playoffs without a doubt in my mind. But with Teddy Bridgewater and Locke, I just hate that situation too much, and they just burned me last year, and that I just can't get that out of my mind. Like that just I was really high on them last year, and then they just did not perform to how I thought they would. So maybe that's a little bias from my part, but yeah, this quarterback situation still just I can't put them there, which is
and I will say this. But I'm not going to say their offensive line is great, but with Mike Munchak, one of the best offensive line coaches, really good, it's better to me, better than Miami's. They signed Graham Glasgow for a decent amount of money, 4 years, $44 million this offseason. He's going to help a good amount. Excuse me, last offseason. They signed him last offseason. He helped. You look at Lloyd Cushenberry, they drafted out of LSU. I think he's going to be better.
He's a good
just Dalton Risner. They have a lot of young players that to me are just going to get better together. And then Bowles, absolutely was outstanding last year. Overall, I just think Denver's offensive line will be better than Miami's if we're comparing those two teams head to head. Will it be a top 10 unit in the NFL? Probably not. But I don't think Miami's will be in the top 15 in the NFL either. And then I don't look. I think Tua's probably more talented than Teddy, but out and out, based on what I saw from Tua last year and based on what I saw from Teddy last year, when Teddy has better weapons, even though Tua's weapons aren't bad this year by any means, to me that's a pretty even situation. Which then just leads me to the defense, and I know Miami's defense is going to be excellent. I know how good they were last year. But I just look at Draymond Jones and guys like Alexander Johnson, who we didn't really mention, who are really underrated players for Denver. And top to bottom, I just keep saying that Denver's D to me is good. I think it's not just going to be good. I think it's going to be the best in football.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big year for them. Like if they don't make the playoffs, you got to think Vic Fangio's definitely on the hot seat. If not now, when? And I know he hasn't had a good quarterback, but this defense has more than enough talent to be a top 5 unit, especially with him. So I'm interested to see how they do. But yeah, I can't even really deny the Broncos because they just have so much talent, right? It's literally just the quarterback position. You just wish they had Jimmy G or Deshaun Watson or even Aaron Rodgers. That would just be filthy. But and then, yeah, I guess a couple teams that didn't make the playoffs for me that were close. One, the Titans. I'm still not fully sold on the Colts. The Titans-Colts is kind of a flip for me. And then I had the Chargers. I think they'll go like 10-7 because I think they've got a lot of talent, and then Herbert's second year should be good. And then getting Staley, I think, is massive.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Chargers. Miami would be a team right there for me, just like they were last year. They're extremely gifted. And then finally, I still have to put Pittsburgh there. I think there's no way Pittsburgh isn't right around the conversation. I have a lot of question marks about Pittsburgh, but Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, they just don't have losing seasons. I'm not going to bet against them having one this year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I'm putting them at 8-9. That's the record I have for the Steelers because Mike Tomlin perpetually goes above 500. It doesn't matter if Duck Hodges is back there. But I don't know. They lost a lot, and they looked bad down the stretch last year, like legitimately bad. I still cannot believe that they were 12-0 at one point. Maybe it was 11-0.
11-0.
That in general is crazy to me because they finished the season 1-4 and then lost, so they were really 1-5. So I don't know. They will be interesting though.
Yeah, and so that's our AFC playoff predictions. I had Browns, Bills, Chiefs, Titans, Baltimore, New England, Broncos. Blake had Chiefs, Bills, Browns, Indianapolis, Baltimore, New England,
Dolphins.
Dolphins. So a little bit of disagreement there. We'll see who gets closer to being more right. Though I have a feeling that I think I nailed this one and Blake got this one totally wrong.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to see how it plays out and which teams are the wild card for the AFC. Because that I could see legitimately like 6 different teams.
And yeah, I agree. I didn't even want to do this because I didn't want to pick between like 7 different teams. Because like I told you, I like there's legitimately like 12 teams in the AFC that I could make a case that could make the playoffs. 12. Mm-hmm. There's 16 teams in a conference. Just think about that. So, I mean, that's the end of our AFC